In the smoky backrooms of New York City during the Roaring Twenties, where fortunes were made and lives were lost over the turn of a card, Charles Lucky Luciano sat at the center of it all. But as the stakes rose higher than ever, so did the risk, leading him into a deadly game where one wrong move would shatter his empire and seal his fate. Charles Luciano, born Salvatore Lucania in 1897, was destined for a life steeped in shadows and intrigue. From his early years in the bustling streets of Little Italy, where the aroma of pasta mingled with the whisper of secrets, he learned quickly that power lay not in hard work, but in cunning and connections. By the time he reached his 20s, he was already entrenched in the world of organized crime, a world that fascinated him with its promise of wealth and influence. With a sharp mind and a ruthless ambition, Luciano sought to unite the fractured Italian mafia in America. He was a visionary, understanding that a collaborative approach would not only increase profits, but also protect their interests against rival gangs. He orchestrated the formation of the Commission, a governing body for organized crime, which would stabilize the chaotic turf wars that had plagued their operations. Under his leadership, the mafia began to thrive, with Luciano at the helm, wielding power like a king in his castle. As the 1920s roared on, Luciano's empire expanded. He was a master of the illicit, running a vast network of gambling, bootlegging, and prostitution. His charm and charisma drew people in, while his ruthlessness kept them in line. He became the architect of modern organized crime, and his influence reached beyond the streets of New York to the highest echelons of society. But with great power came great enemies. Rival gangs, law enforcement, and even former allies began to see Luciano as a threat. The winds of change were blowing, and Luciano knew he had to play his cards right to stay ahead. He became a master of deception, using various fronts to mask his operations and divert attention from his true dealings. In 1931, Luciano found himself at a crossroads. The increasing pressure from law enforcement was mounting, and he could feel the walls closing in. In a desperate bid to secure his position, he made a fateful decision. He would eliminate his competition once and for all. The infamous Murder Incorporated was born, a hit squad that would carry out his orders with brutal efficiency. The streets ran red with blood as Luciano solidified his power, but he also painted a target on his back. As the years rolled on, Luciano's empire flourished, yet the stakes continued to rise. He was living a double life, a king in the underworld and a respectable businessman in the eyes of the public. But the facade was fragile, and Luciano was acutely aware of the risks he took each day. The more he gained, the more precarious his position became. In 1936, the relentless pursuit of law enforcement finally caught up to him. After a lengthy investigation, Luciano was arrested on charges of running a massive prostitution ring. The trial that followed was a spectacle, drawing attention from the press and the public alike. In a calculated move, Luciano sought to negotiate his way out of prison by offering information about rival mobsters. But the authorities were not interested in deals. They wanted to make an example out of him. In a dramatic courtroom scene, Luciano sat stoically as the verdict was read.